point of spirituality is there. Is there? The Vivastra Jagna Apsara is there. Just arranging the dress. Then drummer, musician, dancer, and here is the Kamadeva. This image is Panchashar, Pushpashar, and Ikshudhanu. What best could be thought about the form of Kam than having these attributes? You see how intelligent they were. This is the philosophy there. While taking or conceptualizing the visual form of Kamadev, they had these two attributes, Panch Pushpashar, we all know, and Ikshudhanu, the sweetness of the highest point. So these are all on a Jain temple. It is Jinnanathpur Shantinath Jain temple near Shravanbelgol of 12th century. So this is how the Indian art was moving. Jain art was moving along with all the components, all the essential features. I understand, I'm just finishing. Here again, it is from Khajuraho. Panch Pushpashar, Ikshudhanu, Kam Vitrathi. And the Jain text Harivansh Puran. I was wondering how to explain such representations. You see, Harivansh Purana, 8th century, it says, Atraiva Kamadevasya Ratesha Pratimam Vyadhat Jinagare Samastaya Prajaya Pautukaya. But the purpose you see is intelligent. For the Kautuk of the Praja, they are made so that people come, and when people come and they enter into the sanctum sanctorum and meet the highest embodiment of the Jain spirituality, gradually there will be a change. Next. Composite image. You see. Both Rishabhnath, but here Balaram and Vasudeva Krishna. It becomes the composite image of Rishabhnath and Neminath. The fourfold Jain image, four different Jinas represented in one image, like Harihara and Narishwar, is a composite image. Here it is in Victoria and Albert Museum Reserve Collection, a Jain having 7 faces. So 7 Jinas represented together. Here also from Son Bhandar. Next, within a minute I will finish. The Tirthankar, the highest point of austerity, who was not a Jain, but he was worshipped like a Jain, because in Jainism the highest point was given to the austerity and renunciation, and when Bahubali became embodiment of that, renouncing everything revered at the point of his victory, he became worthy of worship, and worship comes to the point that he is being worshipped with the Jinas. And also he represents, you see, the creepers entering, the lizards, snakes, scorpions, minks. He represents the coexistence of nature and man. So that is beautiful. Next. One. The same you see Ellora from Madhya Pradesh, Metropolitan Museum, Police Affairs Museum, Bahubali Tech. This. He becomes the Shantamurti. Shantaras is the highest ras. And you see, he becomes the embodiment of Shantaras. Complete, cool, calm. And here comes the beauty of Jain art. Last. This is Abhishek. With this I end. Thank you.
I must thank both the speakers. They've enjoyed your presentation. Dr. Sina and Professor Tiwari. We have thoroughly enjoyed your presentation, and we have enjoyed these illustrations also. And it's very important to know how the Jaina art has been intermingled with other traditions. That is also a very important point. Listen to us. And there is also the social impact. Sarvajana Sukhaya, also you mentioned So that is also very important, that there are some inscriptions. So we would like to hear more about these things, because we don't have much chance to hear these things, and this is especially to see these illustrations, the paintings and others. But time is short, so we have to invite some questions if there are any, because we don't have much time.
Well, I would like to start by making a small observation on Dr. Doshi's very beautifully illustrated this morning. You have mentioned 3 different types, with palm leaves and then paper tape and then scrolls. Now on the screen, they all appear the same size. So my humble suggestion is that when you mention the name and the year, if you can mention the dimension as well. So you can easily identify how small or how big are they. And when you show the big ones, I'll definitely suggest if you can include some details. Because it's a 30 feet long scroll, and the details are all these. So
I was afraid because it was just taking too long.
Sorry.
If I had an hour, I would have showed you details from. I want to talk about this from the Jain manuscripts, which you can blow up as big as a whole screen, and it's as small as a postage stamp in the miniature. But when you blow it up, there's no distortion. The line is so clear and so beautiful. So, but time constraints.
When we're talking about the lines, one more question comes to mind. In the earlier manuscripts on palm leaf, you mentioned that the lines had wash around it.
Yes.
Now, normally the lines on palm leaf are done inside with the stylus. But how do they do the wash part?
You see, that comes from Ajanta, and that is to
Now, how do they do it? I know the stylistical comes from Ajanta,
Yeah.
but how do they do it in palm leaf?
First do the wash and then the line. You see, it's side by side.
So they do the wash part and then do the line.
Side by side.
Thank you.
Just a question. You have indicated.
The question is to me.
Yes, yes. You have indicated in one particular painting the Palo idiom or the Palo style. It looks like the Palo style. So, do you think that is there any influence of Palo painting and Western style?
It's an enigmatic painting. We don't know whether it was done in Eastern India, whether it was done in Western India with Pala influence there, or was it that you see this interrelationships? We have really no clue. But it's quite, I'm sorry, I have no answer for that.
But Dr. Joshi, we are aware Jain manuscripts prepared in Bihar and in northern India. So the chances of
It be having come, yes.
Yes, was always there.
Yes, because the coexistence of the two styles would indicate that.
Yes.
But since there has been no
Sure.
dated and actual evidence, it is difficult for us to assume that. Yes.
Just one small question. You have shown us the illustrations of the manuscripts, but another aspect of manuscripts that might be certain is the style of writing or calligraphy. Have you noticed any development in the calligraphy, or was it more or less uniform? For example, in the Arabic or Persian, they have so many styles, like Nastali and so on. So, do we notice any
I have personally not studied it, but whatever I have looked at, I do not see that much development. However, in the 15th century, we get a number of names of scribes, and which was not there earlier. And that's when we begin to suspect that the workshops were established, there were certain scribes. Now, one of the things that I did not mention in my rush was that a manuscript was always first written and spaces were left for illustrations. And we often have manuscripts where the spaces are not being filled for some reason.
So that gives
And
you a clue.
occasionally, yes, there were two, illustrator and the scribe. And occasionally there are little captions indicating what the illustration should be. So the two were different, and your question, I feel towards the 15th century we are able to almost identify individual calligraphy, you know, but not, we may or may not have the name, but you can see that some calligraphy is a little flickery, the other is more strong in its, and bold in its strokes. But apart from that, not really.
Just one thing I may add, just one second. I came to know from some Jain scholars that some Jain monks were very good at calligraphy. For example, Muni Pundavijaya, he presented a manuscript to Vandatta Institute. I saw it there in very beautiful handwriting. So could it be that the monks were also
yes,
copying manuscripts
it's possible, and
not professional scribes?
yes, and we find that in Bikaner in the 17th and 18th centuries, many Jain paintings were illustrated by Jain monks. Now, the reason they are illustrated by these monks, which is given, is they are known as Makhed, and that is because they could not adhere to the rigorous discipline required of Jain monks. So they left the order, but they started doing painting and writing of Jain manuscripts.
Well, if I may add, Professor, that the difference with Islamic manuscripts and this is very great because there are different forms of calligraphy. But about chronological or regional developments, it was never very pronounced. And of course, it was the monks who normally, wrote those manuscripts, not professional calligraphers.
But Ashok, if I may say so, we find at the end of many manuscripts that I have written as I have seen. If there are any mistakes, do not blame me. So it would imply that the scribe only knew how to write, did not know what he was writing.
You see, in manuscripts, in other disciplines also, you see, I personally work on manuscripts. My main job is to edit manuscripts. And at least in many manuscripts in Assam and Bengal that I have come across, there will be peculiar words. Bhivasya pi rode bhanga, muninancha moti brahma, and Bhivasya pi written with a rasai. Yatha drishta tatha likhita mama dosho na diyate.
Same thing. What does it mean?
You see, the thing is that even Bhim had to be defeated in some battles. And Muninancha Mati Brahma, even great sages, they also commit blunders. So if I commit blunders, it's no big thing. So I'm just, you see, it's Mokshika Sthane Mokshika, I exactly copied what I saw. So I should not be blamed for any mistakes.
I find that in Jain manuscripts also, that I have written as I have seen. Please do not.
E and OE.
Professor Mukhopadhyay has a question.
Yes, I will grab you for some information, but to you first. Here. What I have to say is that you have made a definite point and gave a very strong foundation to it, and then you destroyed it yourself. That's why I blamed you. The strongest foundation you have given was that there existed all through history a definite cultural unity and assimilation all through, and at two levels, between the different sects and also the ordinary people and the religious groups. So you have definitely very strongly established that there existed a cultural unity. But then, unnecessarily, you try to give it more force and destroy it. You have to say that this unity has been spiritual unity. You already established very clearly that unity was a cultural unity. Cultural unity and spiritual are the same, number one. And thereby you have not served really the purpose of the entire cultural unity of India. It's a total culture. It has all these aspects held together for the consistency. And then somehow, when from did it come? It came only 1 century or 2 centuries back. That only one thing they give unity to culture, and that is Advaita Vedanta, the spiritual unity. You have shown this much richer unity you have shown, and then you have loosened it. I have a great.
How?
This is the reason the cultural unity you have shown need not have to remain only on spiritual plane.
That was just a point of focus.
That is
That's
the
why just one point of focus.
But once it's cultural
Out of so many.
no, that's the
Because
there you are not doing justice to the giant
Right.
giants.
But
They did not have to be that spiritual unity in the sense of Advaita. They are not preaching unity in that sense. Spiritual is all right. Spiritual is also there. But spirituality and spiritual unity are not the same thing. The Advaita point of spiritual unity and the Jaina point of spirituality are not the same.
here comes the difference in terms of sex that has to be there.
Yes.
The hand is one, but the fingers are 5. So, is it unity or difference?
Spiritual
I have talked about that.
You have
In
talked, I
in
told you
basic-
that.
in
We
basic
have already
outline.
talked about that, right? In spite of all the diverse, there exists a unity. I told you to illustrate differently. But then why you should have to bring in that this unity should be spiritual unity?
Perhaps I did not say, if I said no.
That's one thing. You don't need it.
I specifically emphasize
No, this can be.
that the height of the spiritual unity, the Jainas did never leave, they did never compromise,
You make
as evident from the images, which are shown only in 2 exclusive postures
You
of
made
meditation.
this point that Advaita unity is the best and highest point of unity. This unity. Maybe yes. Anyway, the second thing I just one or two information from you. Repeated to use the expression Kalpasutra. What exactly did that mean?
It's a text. The name of the
It's
text.
a text.
It is joint text.
Yeah, it's a
In the Hindu
text.
script, there is a Kalpasutra, a whole lot of literature.
It's the most important evidence.
That is the point.
Earliest and
And in the Vedic tradition, there is a lot of literature called Kalpasutra.
Yes.
They are not the same thing.
No, no.
That's why.
And other